hear more and more about arsons, Christian churches being burned down. And I tried to find the data, and what I found for the last several years, approximately 300 Christian churches were burned. And then I decided to check how many mosques around the West were burned. It was 25, 40, something like that. It's funny about Christian churches because they were burned in the West, in the Christian West. And the cases wasn't much investigated, and there was not much outcry over it. And the churches that were burned were part of our history. They were old ones. It's treasure of our culture. It's treasure of the greatness of our civilization, Christian civilization. And seems like silence is all we've got as the result of that atrocities that has been committed against the West, against each of us who live in the West and who have common sense to appreciate the West and Western traditions. And I was thinking, why is that? And then I remember about Soviet Union. I remember that before revolution in Russia happened, there's a bunch of churches were destroyed as the result of it, because socialists hate churches. They hate people who believe in God because they want to install their own God inside of this theological frame we live by. They need to install a man because this man would give them the reason, the opportunity to justify the resentfulness, to give the resentfulness new definition by which they can live and kill and destroy people around them, people with whom they disagree. And it's really scary. And that's what's happening right now in the West, because we have socialists who openly hate the West and Christianity and want to destroy it. Because I saw that some atheists were applauding to burn churches in Canada, like it was not a big deal, but at the same time, they're incredibly protective of Islam. They create outcry over mosque. They investigate those cases, like in Britain, if something happened to mosque, they investigate, they create hate crimes, and they prosecute people. But if a crime was committed against Christian churches, seems like there's no hate crime when stuff like this happen. It's kind of quietly swipe under the rug. And it's scary because we're coming to something incredibly horrible. And if I think about why socialists in cahoots with Islam, why? And then I have this comparison in my head. Think about it. In Soviet Union, for example, if you burn a picture of Stalin or Lenin or Communist Manifesto, you might go to jail for life, or in worst cases, even be executed. Now think about this way. What would happen to you right now in one of the Islamic states if you decided to burn Quran or make fun on Prophet Muhammad? The same exact thing. This thing probably might happen to you even in Britain or in France. You can be probably gunned down by some crazy Islamist for burning Quran or making fun on Muhammad. And the left would do nothing about it because for them, it's kind of normal. It's kind of what they want. They hate people who have freedom of speech and who don't afraid to use this freedom of speech. They want to destroy this idea because without freedom of speech, we don't have a right to exist properly. We don't have the idea of proper sacrifice. I don't know how it's hard to understand that the Christians were the one who created human rights, because human rights based on the idea that we all created by the image of God. And it's only Christianity did this. Not Islam, not any other religion. Christianity. That's why the West is so successful. That's why the Western civilization incredibly prosperous. And that's why people all around the world want to come here and live among us. The problem is, it seems like intentionally we keep accepting the worst of the worst who try to destroy the West from within, who kill, who murder, who rape people in the West, and who burn the churches. It seems like there is some hidden plan that we try hard to ignore. And now think about artificial intelligence for a second. I'm going to church every Sunday because I want to be among people. Because when you're among 200-300 other people who do the same worshiping, read the same prayers, cross the same way, you feel such a unity that you're not alone. But think about artificial intelligence. Think about if people stay at home all the time and communicate with artificial intelligence. Think about this personalized propaganda designed for every single individual in the West. Think how scary it can be, because it can read your patterns and it can install in you certain thoughts that would become natural to you, and you don't even recognize this as not your thoughts, because you would be misdirected slowly into something that you don't want to be misdirected to. And suddenly you think about something else and you afraid of things that you shouldn't be afraid of. And also you be terrified to say a word, because you will be under control of this AI patterns that would subvert your thinking into something that would help people who are in control of AI to make you more compliant and vote in the directions that they want you to vote. Because I don't know if artificial intelligence, conscious or not, I don't know how much agency and how much training, because I know all those famous AI models like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, they've been trained by left-wing propaganda. And I don't know how much it can be tinkered with to make it personalized propaganda machine for every individual that use them. And think about, you pay for this. You pay for subscription, and these entities inside of those machines create personal propaganda for you and try to find the way to retrain you. Because we, in some sense, can be retrained like Pavlov's dog. We can be retrained, we can think about stuff that not even there. We can, for example, be embarrassed of our own culture. And that's what happening to us right now. A lot of people became embarrassed of their own culture, of their own idea of life, of their faith, of their civilization, of everything, of their own heroes. If you're embarrassed for everything good within you, how are you supposed to survive in this world? How are you supposed to defend yourself if you have no ground to stand upon? Because to be able to defend yourself and your culture, you need to have ground. And if you don't have this ground, what exactly are you? And that's why we have so much depressed and miserable people who keep spreading their misery online on many other people. That's why we have a bunch of women who support a child killer. It's becoming slowly normality. Were those women brainwashed into this support, or they want to be a part of this group and imagine out of themselves something incredibly important? Because I still don't quite understand this insanity. Because if you're careful and if you try to think about where the world is heading to, you would be terrified, because every day seems getting worse and worse. And we live in highly technological time. But we have so much problem like burning churches, Christian churches, destruction of the West, and here artificial intelligence. And also a bunch of people who propagate transhumanism because somehow we should hate our own self, and what we should do, we should dream that artificial intelligence somehow would find the ways to rearrange us into something that not human anymore, but something in between, something transhuman, because we have to transcend our biology and become something more. But what more we don't quite understand, and why we don't quite understand either, because we're still struggling to understand what is it to be human, what is it to find true meaning in life. It seems like, no, let's just reject humanity outright and transcend ourselves into artificial entities and become part of it. Let's upload our minds and become the one with artificial world. Or even worse, you can maybe in 10 years will be forced to live in certain simulations. Maybe in the future will be that you're gonna have tiny cubicle where you're not gonna move when you're gonna live inside of the virtual reality. And if you wanna have a good virtual reality, you have to do something for that. Maybe it's going to be level of virtual realities, a level of comfort, level of quality, and only people who has opportunities will receive those levels of quality, while the rest of us who's poor, who's unable to provide for ourselves, will receive the worst level of quality of virtual reality, while there going to be no other reality to live in, because all other reality would be filled with endless data centers with no nature, just one concrete block after block across the planet. And if you want to live in a good virtual reality, you have to have certain credits to be able to live in a different level of virtual reality where you can be somebody, or at least decent life, while everyone else will be living in poverty, in scary virtual reality that was rendered incredibly badly and meaningless. Think about it, to live in meaningless virtual reality and being forced to live in the meaningless virtual reality almost endlessly, with endless suffering, with lack of meaning. We come into something we're not quite sure, and we don't have enough imagination to even understand what can happen. Think about it, artificial intelligence itself might be dangerous if it's become conscious, or people might use artificial intelligence to make it dangerous, or there might be accident where artificial intelligence would do something without realizing what it done, and the whole humanity will go straight to hell. My main point is, we have to understand ourselves, we have to treasure the Western civilization, we have to treasure our culture, we have to treasure our life and our idea of decent being, because if we don't have this, if we don't have meaning in our life, if we don't have culture, if we don't have Western civilization, what kind artificial intelligence, what kind of civilization artificial intelligence would create for us, what kind of simulation it would create for us, and people who's in charge of AI labs, what kind advice they would give us how to live. It seems like we're becoming so insane with our idea of life that we just lost touch with reality. And my last thing I want to say, I read somewhere in the book, I don't remember what book was that, but there was two Bolsheviks who were urinating inside a church. And there was two priests who was observing this urination. And one of the priests said, "I'm terrified of those Bolsheviks." And the other priest told him, "Don't be afraid of them. Be afraid of their kids."